Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the official Curious Realm coverage of MUFON Symposium 2023, coming to you from Covington, Kentucky. Our first guest today is an artist and vendor here at the show, Lee Grabarczyk of Soulful Symbols. I was struck by your artwork when I walked in, Lee. Watching you unload it. I myself do a lot of work in the realm of therapy music, things like that. So the idea of frequencies, color, things like that to me are hugely important.
Yes, and the idea of therapy, that is really great. Because what I love about art, love about music, we interpret it the way we wish.
Yeah.
We feel it the way we wish. It's not words. You know, with all of the art that I've created here, when people look at it, they're drawn to the piece that works for them. No one is telling them, you know, I have this idea and concept, and these are the words, and follow my 5 steps to success. It's just that they're drawn to it organically.
Yeah.
And that is, then they get to interpret it like music or crystals or anything. They get to interpret the way they want to, and I find that that's just really intimate and lovely and great.
For years, that is... I did avant-garde music, very, very emotive in its root, things like that, much more arrangement of sound and sonics than melody and harmony.
Lovely.
You say lovely. A lot of people, like my dad, were like, whoa, why don't you write something with a beat you could dance to? And I'm like, well, you know, the important thing is that it moved you. Whether you liked it or not, it evoked an emotion from you. So mission accomplished for me. As the artist.
Yes, that is so true. That's exactly it. If I look at something, or it maybe it is something that brings up some kind of strong feeling of even disgust, or brings up some kind of feeling that maybe I'm just not comfortable with, it's been successful.
Yeah.
Because art, for me, in that regard, is designed to expand awareness, expand consciousness. If I look at something and I go, oh, great, I saw that before, or, oh, it doesn't resonate in any kind of way that is invoking some kind of inspirational thought, it doesn't succeed. So if it's doing that, if it's churning up something within me that is like, wow, I didn't really think about that, or wow, I have this feeling about that, that has value. And I really put a lot of my own emotions into this, and then, of course, it's fun to watch other people react to it.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and show the audience a piece real quick. I would like them to see one.
Yeah, so this is an example.
So very much, once again, sacred geometry at its finest. I have always been fascinated by Metatron and things like that.
Yes.
Many of the seals, sigils, and to see much of this same geometry incorporated in your work. How do you begin a piece?
So each of these pieces is really based on the energy of a person. So they're all inspired by a person. Sometimes they are inspired by a general concept or idea. And then what I do is I basically say, okay, universe, you tell me what's going on here. What is it that I'm to do? And then I get a kind of like an inspiration. It comes up in my upper right field of vision in my mind. And then I start drawing it. I draw the basic shape of it. So the basic shape of it can be seen in the line drawing.
Yeah.
Whatever, I'm moving my finger too quickly. There it is. So the line drawing of it is this structure. And then what I do is then I put into the line drawing the tonality of it, so the black and white halftone. And then once I feel that I've got enough contrast, movement, energy, etc. going on, then I reflect on the coloration. And then the colors start building in, and then that takes time. And they come in waves, and I just continue to build on that. And as we talked about briefly before, once that is completed, I can feel it organically. You know, I think one of the things with art is you have to know when to stop, right?
Yes.
So when I get to a point where I energetically feel like a rush of energy, I know I'm done. And then here is another one. I think this is one of the ones that you were also...
that one resonated with me hugely. And I think part of it may just be the color scheme, quite honestly. I'm a Cajun by upbringing, so immediately, as you can tell, I am drawn to Mardi Gras colors.
Yes. Purple. Yes, you are.
Purple, green, yellow.
So this was created for an ET experiencer.
Wow.
So a person who is an experiencer who is quite noteworthy in their own right, this is their piece.
Okay.
And so for you to respond to that at MUFON, because we're all part of this little group of ET experiences, for you to respond to it in that way, that's fascinating to me because it all, again, connects.
Well, and I will tell you my personal story. This was actually the piece that resonated with me. Lee gave me a sheet with numerous pieces on it, no descriptions, and just said, which one speaks to you? And out of the second page, this is the one that I found. And interestingly enough, the meaning of it, the universe adorns me with its magnificence. I live in the paradise of my own creation. One of the big messages of this show, Lee, is manifestation, and the idea that we are locked in a paradigm in this world of believing that we can't. Which is a horrible place to be, like, emotionally as a people.
And I think one of the things too is to look at, so if something isn't working, something's being served by the thing that's not working. In other words, there's a lot of people who are afraid of success. There's a lot of people who are afraid of being famous because they don't want to target on their back, or they don't want to be known, or they want to be found out, or they don't want everybody to understand their business or follow them or lose their anonymity or whatever. There are so many reasons why we have what we have. And I think one of the most important concepts for any of us is to have what you have. This is what I have. I am single. I have that I am single. I have that I have this age. And own it.
Own it.
You know, I love Quentin Crisp the other day. I saw an interview of him all the way back in 1982. And he was being interviewed by somebody, by David Letterman. And David Letterman was asking, well, don't you want to fit in? And he goes, no, I don't want to fit in. He goes, why would I lie about who I am? What is that? What does that do? What does that serve? He said, let them discover me or not. And I thought, this is just brilliant. Because if I think there's two things for me in my life that are absolutely essential. One is living in the question of, who am I? Every day, who am I? Who am I in this day? Who am I in this moment? Who am I in this whatever? And then the next step is, am I doing that? Am I true to whatever that happens to be? If I am that, everything works.
Well, it's kind of the idea of great to give yourself the the smiley affirmation in the mirror in the morning, but if you don't follow that up, if you don't look for that affirmation throughout your day, you've missed that.
You can't. So one of the things in holistics I think is really important is to be authentic. Because if I were to kind of like, and there's a whole bunch of things that in holistics too about owning your shadow, shadow work is really important. Because when people don't own that part of themselves, they project that. And then they project that in a way that then makes it about the other person and controlling their actions. Let me tell you how I feel better if you do the following. Let me tell you how I will be less uncomfortable if you do the following. Instead of really looking at their own behaviors. So all of us have the right to be ourselves. That's God-given. And if we're not doing it, that's on us. That's our responsibility. So all of these pieces come out of this kind of, I don't know, is this moment in my life where I had so many hardships, where I was like, okay, what is it? I tried this, I tried that, I tried everything else. None of these things worked. Universe, tell me, what is it I need to do? And then it came in.
Wow. Now, was it the fact that you were a student of sacred geometry before you started this work?
Not really. No, I mean, I have a degree from Pratt Institute, a degree in art direction way back when, and I had worked in marketing, etc. And then I lost a business of 20 years, and a lot of hardships and a lot of bad things happened to me. And I was trying to figure out what to do next, and I had a friend of mine who was very ill. He had cancer, and he said to me, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you when I go. And I was like, how are you going to do this? I'm going to help you. So I was working on this design for this person who was looking at what is it to be successful and single? Like, how is it that we can celebrate? We have rings on our fingers when we're married, but what is it to celebrate being single? And the very first sacred geometric form was connected to that, but connected to him. I went to his wake. I'm there. I'm driving. I can feel the energy. I look up in my mind's eye and I see that symbol. So that symbol, that little bit of happy, is the logo. And that kind of began the ball rolling on this. So that logo, I found out years later, matches the design of Atlantis.
Oh, wow.
Almost to the letter. So in Mauritania, there's theories about Mauritania, but there's this whole thing about Plato or Aristotle, the description of Atlantis. That fits it.
Yeah, the 3 rings.
Yes, yeah, because it goes right. If you were to take this and grid it over it, it matches it exactly.
Wow.
And that's how it began.
Wow. Incredible. And it was, once again, was it the fact of your connection to frequency, your connection to these things?
I've always had a strong connection to it. Now, I've had a strong connection to frequency, and yes, formally sacred geometry, no. But when I was a child, I loved Etch-a-Sketch.
Okay.
And after that, spirograph. And I would work with spirograph endlessly. My parents thought that I was crazy.
I was going to ask if your work was spirographic in inspiration.
In the beginning, yes. Yeah, in the beginning it was.
I got my son a metal spirograph. I don't know if you know they came out with that, but the 50th anniversary version is all metal cogs.
Oh, I got to try that.
Oh, it's all... They don't crack. They don't get all worn out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I would be like...
It's incredible. Incredible. But... Now, you have other works that you've done with people that coordinate with star systems.
Yes.
How did those come about? Let's go ahead and show one of those.
Right. So this one is this came in with that one there. You can see the artwork. And so I had created that art for this person, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. And when I did it, I looked at it and went, I think there's something else going on here. Now, prior to that moment, I didn't really think there was a stellar connection. Like, I just didn't really think that was a thing. But when I looked at, and I kept looking, I was like, I have to look at this. So I looked at local constellations, and this is part of the Matariki Star Nebula or the Pleiadian star system. And I said to this person, I went, why don't you go ahead and read the starseed information, see if it resonates with you? And they were blown away. They said to me, that's me. I mean, and it's so specific. And one of the specific examples was that you will be greeted by a tall interdimensional being or extraterrestrial when you're between some age. I don't know, it was like 5 and 9. Well, that happened to them.
Wow.
In the way, and then the other kind of general characteristics. So I was like, okay. So that is one example. But there are others that have happened.
And was it the fact of you were already aware of starseed, things like that, when you made that?
I was a little aware of it. I've since become much more aware of it.
Okay.
Starseed information came to me about 4 or 5 years ago. Prior to that, I really didn't know much about it.
Okay.
I remember reading a little bit about the Orion, my big bald head, big eyes. I have that whole Orion thing going on. And I was like, I really feel this really is pretty accurate. I mean, this is pretty close to who I am. Sense of humor, mathematician, but kind of wild too, like this whole combo pack. And that was my introduction. But beyond that, the 33 common ones, whatever they are, there's just such an incredible, now there's so, like from blue avians and it's just endless. It's like a whole science at this point. That came much later.
Yeah. And when you're making these, when you are actively creating your art, how is it the fact of you have a starting point from somebody when you start up a piece for someone?
Yeah, I pretty much, when I meet somebody, I get imagery immediately. And the imagery seems to be structurally referential to their essence. So one of the things that I've kind of noticed is, so when people do ayahuasca or psilocybin or et cetera, they see the matrix structures.
Sure.
They see all of and they're all sacred geometry.
Yeah, the fractal nature
of the universe is really sacred geometry. And that's my opinion, at least.
Sure.
And then on top of that, schizophrenics, for example. Schizophrenics, as they become degenerative, then they're basically moving out of this orientation in reality into the more cosmic.
Well, almost fragmented
cosmic, exactly. So we see all the pieces assembled. We see the puzzle pieces assembled.
Yeah.
They see the puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
And they see the puzzle pieces in a way that kind of makes it look very kind of chaotic or loopy, or they don't know what's going on. But we see them and we go, oh, this is all that. But it's not. It's just this. We're seeing the puzzle pieces arranged based on our perspective, our belief systems, our orientation. That's how we're doing it. Of course, everybody sees everything a little differently, but that's why. So the structural mechanisms, the backbone of our reality is really created out of these geometric forms of fractals, I think, created by tetrahedron-like little things driven by energetic thought or intention. So everything is being manifested out of these pre-existing ideas. So you could call the structural systems the universe, or what people might call God, and you can say the mechanisms that move those things around, either the coming from consciousness, collective consciousness, or the organic intention of the original idea. So in other words, if I suspend my control, I can flow with the energy of life in a way that then allows for better outcomes.
Yeah.
And but the structural devices of those things, those mechanisms, those formulas, if you would, have a geometric representation. Those geometric representations, when people who have ordered one of these look at them, brings the person back into the original factory settings free of fear. Because all of these are free of fear. These are all representational ideas independent of fear that bring the person back into their own self in a way that lets them understand their greater value without doubting.
Well, even the fact of the mantra.
Yes.
That is given with each one that kind of explains the energy behind it and the representation of the image. That it's such a beautiful thing to give somebody, just that one sentence to be able to ingrain in your head.
And what I love about it is the affirmation is the affirmation. In other words, the affirmation affirms why you wanted that in the first place.
Yes.
It's not just that it's an affirmation in a sense that empowers you with whatever it is that you're working on. It's an affirmation in, yes, you chose correctly.
Well, even the fact,
which is wild to me. Because
even the fact of, once again, the concept of manifestation and getting people to understand their place as a cog in the universe is a big part of this show, and why I do this show. I love talking about. Well, I could sit back and probably talk with 4 or 5 dudes about conspiracy theories all day long, I guess. Right. I don't know to what end, Lee.
Right.
For me, it's the fact of let's demystify this. Let's get to the point of empathy, of understanding why somebody believes something they believe because of their experience. And that's why I love coming to MUFON Con, is because, there is a full realm of experiencer here. I sponsor a lot of shows across the country, quite a few in Texas, a lot of cryptid cons, things like that, where, hey, I have had my own religious epiphanies and moments of beauty in the universe where I was connected in a totally different way than anybody else in that room at that time. Nobody else experienced that but me.
Yes.
It can be hard to share that. It can be hard to let that truth be known sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It's not being, and it isn't easy being an individual. But we're social beings. We want to be parts of groups. We want to be connected. We want to be loved. And,
we want to be affirmed.
We want to be affirmed.
Yeah.
And, if we're doing something that isn't necessarily acceptable, even though it has great value, well, you can hold back on it. You can become a pioneer.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting to me is that success, like what I would call finding your purpose. We'll call it finding your purpose.
Sure.
Finding your purpose is just living whatever it is that is you. Yeah. And the rest comes out of that. Like all of this. So I had like about 4 or 5 years ago, I was just sort of frustrated with things and I wanted to be some kind of positive something. And I was tired of complaining about it. I was like, I'm just sick of complaining about it. Course of Miracles began the same way. Course of Miracles began with 2 people, if you're familiar with it, coming out of the, I think it was 70s. 2 people from, I think they were NYU, a woman and man, and both therapists. And they were like, we need to do something here. And then they started channeling out Course of Miracles. What I find fascinating is the Course of Miracles book got published, and then the woman who channeled it died. She did her job, basically. Yeah. So when we're frustrated and upset about something, we have choices. We can kind of like say, okay, what is it within me and my purpose that I can then become the thing that I feel is the counterpoint to this? Or do I just want to live in complaint and all of that?
Yeah.
You know, and if you want to live in complaint and if you want to live in that kind of pain, then that's what you're going to attract. Because if I want to complain about things and I'm always have things to complain about, then I'm going to get this, that, and the other thing. Next thing you know, I'm sick and I'm whatever. So, or I can celebrate and be in my joy of, okay, this is what's concerning me, but I can do the following.
Yeah.
Which is what you do.
Well, precisely. And that's just it. Like it is a conscious decision every day to wake up.
Absolutely.
You could wake up and go, man, it's Monday. It sucks. You know?
Exactly.
And I've had that job. I've definitely had a cubicle life at one point in my life. I don't know that I could ever go back to that now that I've seen the other side, Lee. Yeah. Even the world of broadcast, things like that. Like, I prefer my hacking through the jungle Indiana Jones freelance lifestyle where it's let me hunt the next gig. Yeah. You know,
because
there's something to it.
You know, so somebody says, well, you know, I'm just going to become myself. And then out of that, they kind of create this meme of success and attraction. And everybody's like, okay, I'm going to wear the hair the way that they do and the bracelets the way that they do and the clothing. And I'm going to drive the car that they car, whatever. But that's all external stuff. And then it's just second fiddle to somebody else's concepts. What is it that's true for them? What is it that they want to do? What is it that they want to resonate with? And then everybody eventually goes, wow, that's really great. I want to be like them. Sometimes you have to be your own, like you just have to be find your own way. You have to be your own inspiration in a way. You have to find your own path in a way. And then eventually things click along and then you find your tribe and other people who feel the same way and you're off. But that desert, like what they would call, you know, the days in the desert, the days of the journey, that is hard. But that's what really shows the universe and to the person you were worth your own efforts in your own being and becoming and being your authentic self. And as a reward, here you go.
Well, and especially with artwork like this, where you're working with experiencers, you're working with people that have had these fully energetic experiences. And the more I talk with people like Kathleen Martin, Sev Talk, people on the experience or resource team with MUFON, the more it is the fact, and it makes perfect sense as far as physics. Like these are high vibrational fields.
Yep.
These are plasmic fields. Those change things. And to have been in the presence of that will change you. It'll change the way you vibrate, period.
Absolutely. And one of the things, and we mentioned this, is when I was, this is really kind of a tell on the connection to ET world. So there is that one piece that's done. You can see the art, and then to the side of that, you can see its orientation.
From Booties.
The constellation, which is the Arcturian starseed. So this was done back in 2019, and about 4 weeks later, this popped up in some field in Western England. So when I did I do work in intuition too, and I was brought in to do an investigation into a ghost viewing with a person who is pretty well known in the New York area. And I'm going upstairs, and we're doing investigation, and we're trying to figure out, this is a 18th, like, I think it was built in the late 1700s. And we're upstairs in this attic, and it's kind of wild. And then all of a sudden, everything dies. Like the Coleman lamp dies, and then all of the electronics goes wonky, and the temperature drops.
Wow.
And, you know, and the signals are going off. So this person who was doing this has a lot of equipment. And I was they were really their investigation per se. I was just brought in as a kind of an advisor. So I'm there with them, and they're doing this. And then the person who's leading this asks questions of a thing called a spirit box. And for those who don't know what that is, that's basically a box that extrapolates out of radio signals, different kinds of words and phrases. And it does seem to have value. I mean, a lot of times it's just nonsense, but then you'll hear a clear word. So we went through a whole series of questions about who is up here. Is it the captain, which was the guy, or is it this person or that person? It was just like nothing, or just no response, like nothing. And then the person goes on a totally different tangent. We were not getting into ET stuff. We were not going to go into that realm. He asks, is this extraterrestrial? Yes. You hear, like, the electronic digital version of it was like, yes. Like and it was, I remember thinking, this is great. Like this is happening. And I'm looking around the people, like, we're all like, oh my goodness. So then he started rattling off star systems, and he goes, are you part of the Zeta, blah, blah, blah. And you hear, yes. And then he goes, okay. And it was this time the yes was clearer. So then he goes through a bunch of other questions and nothing. And then he goes, do you know anybody in this room? Lee.
Ooh.
So I was the person.
Wow.
Who they identified. And now we're all like, and I went, wait a second, did everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Because did that just happen? So they're asking this. Then what, then he goes, and I'm just stupefied at this point. He goes, what are you doing with Lee? Give him information. And they're like, what do you mean information? Art. Like that.
Wow.
So who knows what's real, but that there is, I am a part of an experiencer group. And the people who are in, many of them at least, are in that group, they do connect to this art in a kind of really visceral way, much the way that you do it, in fact. One in particular, really. And I think it's kind of what I really think. So in the friend-a-foe part of this for the symposium.
Sure.
Let's go with the friend part. Some people have said that really, if you were to look at ET world as a religion, if they were looking at traditional religion, their goal is, let us raise the vibration. If we raise the vibration, we can give a voice. So think of wisdom as a disembodied consciousness trying to find an outlet.
Sure. Sophia.
Right? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's trying to find an outlet. If I can raise the vibration of the mechanisms that can then bring that into fruition, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Because now what I've done is I've taken something that was just kind of floating out there, I've given it a voice, and now it's raising.
You've given it a conduit.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly what we are.
Yeah, you've cleared
so
a
their
path.
interest, if I would, my feeling at least, their interest is not in we become mechanisms of that. And they want that because it serves everything.
Yeah.
It raises everything. And every single being that has that, doing that is affecting, because all systems are open, is affecting everything else. And it's such a way to really, really drive things up. So who knows, maybe through this observation, this is just one little teeny piece of the puzzle. Because I came online with this, because I never really had a passion about this stuff before.
You have an incredible passion for this.
Yes,
Lee.
This is my jam, man. I mean, I'm like loving it. So with this, this intensity, this is then going to be brought to something, and then it triggers another person and another person, another person, and I really love to hear other people's stories. I love to hear other people's. There is a woman who was on, who I really, I just get that she's the real deal, and she was so animated about these because she said to me that I saw these on the ship.
Interesting.
So she said she saw them on the ship, and she said they're spheres. So let me just talk about this. You're looking at a two-dimensional item, right?
Yeah.
There are three-dimensional items with pulsation, color change, and sound. They move, and I do a screen capture of them. I just got to pop them. She did, and I actually heard this from somebody else. These are tools on the ship when this is just her perspective. So sometimes when the children are being brought on, and they're being brought on for evaluation, or maybe they're going to harvest some kind of, they're going to harvest like some kind of donor egg, et cetera. So they bring them in, and sometimes they're all like freaked out.
Yeah.
So what they do is they give them this game, and the game is that. So these things float. They come into them, and then the way that the woman described it is that as she's looking at this thing, the girls, the little other hybrid people are laughing at her, and they're telepathically telling her, no, you don't talk about it. You have to think it. You have to think what it is that you want. And so she thought of a flower, and immediately the thing morphed, and she got an entire description of life forms and how they grow, and then the thing started growing, this life form that she was interested in.
Oh.
It's an educational tool. So these, from her perspective, and are nothing more than little kind of, if you would, learning tools that the person, like a flashcard.
Yeah, each
but
one's like a
three-dimensional. It's a program. It's a three-dimensional program that morphs into whatever it is the consciousness is thinking to show the person what it is that they need to know to educate them through this experiential interaction, which also is done energetically. I mean, it's way beyond my abilities.
That is fun. Deep and thick,
yes. Lee.
And now we have you for a couple more minutes. How does this artwork affect you? I always find it interesting to, I guess it's because my process whenever I am making music is very energetic.
Yes.
There have been there was one person who became my bandmate, one out of the many, many years of playing with other people with electronic music, and he was the only one that when we were done, not only said as most people do, like, wow, that was weird. Like, did you feel that? Yes. That was weird.
Yes.
His question after was, do you think we could do that again? And I was like, oh, I guarantee you I can make that happen again. Like what you just felt while we were making that. Like, oh, yeah. Like, you're the first person to ever ask me to do it again.
Yeah.
Most people are like, one and done. They're like, wow, that was intense. I don't know if I could handle another 3-hour session like that.
Yeah. So every time that I do it, I go through the same kind of, I have the blank slate, and then I have the image pop in, and I start, and then I kind of get a little freaked out, like, will I be able to do this? And then it starts coming in. But all of them always wrap up with the same energetic burst. I mean, I get such a rush of energy at the end. I'm like pulsating, and at the very end, I kind of almost let out a yell. I kick my head back, and I don't scream, but I kind of like make this very primal, like because I'm releasing whatever it is, and then I'm done.
Wow.
And then I do it all over again. And I do it all over, and each of them imprint on me. So every single thing is building upon itself. And all of the different concepts and ideas start latticing outwardly to grow a greater understanding structurally to support bigger ideas.
We just interviewed Jan Nassari at the International Remote Viewing Association. He was there with a booth talking about carbonic certainty.
Oh.
And the idea that we are carbonic beings. We're carbon. His hashtag is hashtag diamond vehicle. Like, you could be a charcoal, you could be a diamond. The only difference is the pressure that it takes to make the diamond. So don't be afraid of the pressure.
Exactly.
Don't be afraid of it. But it was really interesting hearing his philosophy of, because of the fact that we are carbon, we are exhaling carbon all the time.
Yes.
And every bit of that carbon, the same way you can program a piece of quartz, what have you, every bit of that is programmed with our vibration.
Yes.
And that is going out into the world, positive or negative. So the idea of you actively birthing that out of you with your breath at the end is fantastic and beautiful and amazing, because his whole concept is the fact of you have the option and choice to be reborn with every breath.
Yes.
Every breath. Yes. You have that option.
Yes, it's
to find a whole new you and to program the world in a whole different way around you.
I remember I had a vocal coach, because I used to be singing when I was younger, and she used to say, when you sing out into eternity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to thank you so much for coming on. Your energy in there was absolutely amazing, as well as the energy of your work. Look here at the camera. Let everybody know where they can go to get in touch with you, because you do private work. You do private art for people to help boost their energetic field. So let everybody know where they can go to find you and find your art.
We currently, it's called Soulful Symbols, but they haven't converted it over. So if you look at www.soulfulmandalas.com, because originally that was the name. So it's MANDALAS, mandalas.com. And all the information is there. Or you can see me also on Instagram, where it's soulful_mandalas. But, and then keep up with what's going on. I am in the process of developing some products just to kind of, I feel like it's the kids, like they're the kids. I need to get the kids out there. And we're going to continue to develop it. But this is our very first show I really have ever done with a friend of mine. And we're continuing to grow it.
It's fantastic. I love it. So amazing. While you are online checking out everything from Soulful Symbols, soulfulmandalas.com, make sure to stop on by curiousrealm.com. That is where you can find all the episodes. That's where you can like, follow, subscribe. That's where you can find our YouTube channel. All the YouTube channels of our guests are there as well. Also, all of the books from our guests are right there at curiousrealm.com/store. Stay tuned through these commercial messages, folks. We'll be right back with our continuing coverage of Day 1 of MUFON Symposium 2023 right here in Covington, Kentucky. We'll be right back after this.